Hi, thanks for joining me on the Everything and Anything and a Bit Gay podcast. I'm your host, Zach Randles-Friedman. I am taking today, it's a Saturday, and doing the way I do my intros is that I kind of save up 5 or 6 episodes and then I do the intros for them and they're edited in at the beginning. So if you ever see me kind of wearing the same clothes for my intros, because that's the day that I decided to sit down and do intros. I'm going to start doing them though, like right after I do the episode if I have time. But it just kind of, I don't know, I get to reflect and kind of think about what I talked about with the guests. So it just kind of gives me a day or two, or sometimes a week or two, to kind of think about the episode. This week in particular was just like a bizarre week. By the time you hear this will all be old news. But this week, Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and I have a LGBTQ plus news podcast called Listen Up Girl, and I did a story about him on my earlier podcast this week, and I did some news today that's going to go out tomorrow on Sunday, and I decided not to talk about it anymore because I don't really have anything more to say about it. I don't agree with somebody being assassinated most of the time, but I don't know, like, what else am I gonna say? Like, I didn't agree with his messaging. Um, the fact and I'm very disappointed in a lot of things that people have said online. There's people that are going online and talking about him, and saying, how sad they are and stuff, but I'm like, certain people, I get it, but some of the people that are saying it are part of the LGBTQ plus community or allies, and they're saying they're sad about it. This guy was just kind of full of hate. But anyway, I'm not mentioning him anymore. That will be the last time I talk about Charlie Kirk, unless something major comes up in my news broadcast that I would talk about. But enough of Charlie. What I will say, though, is that last night, me and my husband were laying in bed watching TV, and I noticed over the last 4 or 5 months, he has really, really, really gone very left. He is becoming, and I appreciate it. Like, I'm glad he's, you know, a big liberal. I'm glad he, is we think the same way in a lot of things, but the difference between him and I is that I don't dwell on it, where he has now started to dwell on it. And I don't know if you have somebody in your life where they're Republican or Democrat and they're somewhere in the middle, where they're now focusing on one way. And it's not that he is focusing on it too much, and he's become extreme a little bit. And I told him last night, I think it's affecting your mental health a little bit. I think that you're dwelling on it too much. Like, every time we sit at our island in our kitchen and have dinner together every night, and we record ABC News and we watch the national news together. That's what we do at dinner time. And we're not doing that anymore. He doesn't know that, but we're not going to watch the national news anymore. We're going to find something else to watch. We'll watch, I don't know, Jeopardy or something like that. And I told him last night, you need to take all that energy you have that is being built up, making you feel so negative about the world, and do something about it. Go volunteer, go protest, a peaceful protest, go help a senator or a congressman get into, one of the red states, help them, which he was doing, or he is doing still, I guess. He's helping someone in Iowa, I think, trying to get a seat in the House, and do things like that. My news podcast is kind of how I get my aggression and how I feel like I contribute to the LGBTQ plus community, and the left that's how I feel like I do. I feel like I bring this news and I keep people informed. And the reason why I say that is, I'm not like tooting my own horn, is because I've gotten emails and direct messages and comments on my podcast about Thank you for doing this news podcast. Keep it going. We need to keep people informed. And that's how I feel like I'm contributing. And it makes me feel good that people are listening. And, maybe there's, people don't have time or they've gone off social. They're not listening to the news reports every day, or they stop getting alerts from, their news source on their phones. So they're going to my podcast and they're getting about 10 minutes of LGBTQ plus news and they're kind of staying informed about what's going on. So that's how I feel like I contribute. But last night, our conversation became a little more serious where he's like, what are we going to do? Where are we going to go? And I'm like, what do you mean? We've had this conversation before about what happens if the country gets too crazy. There's a civil war that breaks out. They're killing Jewish people because he's Jewish, or they start, I don't know, trying to kill LGBTQ plus people, or there's a target for them. Like, what do we do? How do we get out? And he basically last night was talking about like, let's think about where we're going to go. And we've talked about this. Would we go to Canada? Would we go to Norway where they're taking people in? But he was making it sound last night like we were going to need to do this soon. We need a plan. And I said, and I stopped for a moment. I said, what do you mean? Like, yes, let's have a plan, but I don't quite know where you're going. You act like this is going to happen in the next few weeks. He goes, what if there's a terrorist attack and you're traveling for work and I'm in Boston, I can't get home? I go, well, if I'm in California on a business trip and you're in Boston and they ground all flights, I'm not going to be able to get back to Boston probably for a while if they ground all flights. Like there was all these scenarios that he was coming up with last night. And I told him, you need to take that energy and put it into making things better and stop. Your mental health is off right now and you're becoming extreme. And he has a friend that became extreme like this from watching all these things online and conspiracy theorists. And he's actually not friends with this person anymore because of that. And I said, don't turn into him. He's not looking at conspiracy theories and stuff, but I'm like, you need to control what you're listening. And you need to take all that energy and try to do something about it. If you're not happy with the way the world is or this country is, think of what you can do to change it. That's how you make progress. And don't sit there and let's not talk about in 2 weeks, we're going to need to pick up and leave everything we have behind to move to a country because they're going to close the borders. Like if they close the borders to this country, the world is in worse shape than we can do. Escaping the country is probably not going to be it's not going to solve the problem for us. But I said, this isn't Nazi Germany. We have social media now. We have news alerts. We have 24/7 news. If something like this is going to happen, where they're going to start trying to round up LGBTQ plus people, or there's an assassination for LGBTQ plus people, or they're taking away more rights, we will know, I think, way ahead of time. We're not going to be caught by surprise like it happened in Germany. And they closed the borders and people can't leave and then they were sent to camps. Like we'll know ahead of time. And he actually acknowledged that he has an issue. And he wants me to talk to him in a week about it to see if he's better. And he's going to try to do something about it instead of dwelling on it and thinking worst case scenario. So I appreciate it. I appreciated the conversation. We talked about it probably for like 45 minutes or an hour last night. And it was just kind of a good talk that I'm glad he listened to what I said because I've mentioned it over the past few months. Like, you're becoming too extreme. And he would just kind of blow it off. There was something in the news about Trump or, just anything about Republicans or they were saying or something negative about Democrats, he would want to talk about it for like 10 minutes. I'm like, dude, I just want to eat dinner and just watch the news and just see what's happening. But I don't even care about the news anymore on these national news programs or CNN or MSNBC and certainly not Fox News. And I'm like, we have to change the way that we're doing things. Let's avoid all that. I'm turning my alerts off on my phone for CNN and New York Times. Like, I'm turning the alerts off. I don't want to know anything anymore. Like, if I want to know something, I will go to a news source and look for it. But I don't need a pop up alert 4 or 5 times a day telling me what's happening. So that's what's happening in my life right now. Now on to my guest. This guest I have today, I was in love with. I found her on Instagram and her name is Britt. And she intrigued me because she was talking about quantum healing. And I didn't know what quantum healing was. And I wanted her to explain it for me. And she lives in California, and I don't know, she has a couple of master's degrees. She talked about her mother dying of cancer and her sister dying of cancer and how she did Reiki and she's such a lovely person. And I just really, really enjoyed the conversation with her. And I knew I was going to like her and I knew I was going to like this interview with her, but I didn't know I was going to like her this much. So again, I said this before. Sometimes I interview people and I'm like, God, I want to be friends with this person. I wish they lived in my neighborhood so we can go have brunch tomorrow or dinner every other night and stuff. And I just really, really enjoyed the conversation with her. We're on the same page. We talked about, I'm not like into crystals majorly and stuff, but my aunt sent me crystals and it helps me sleep. And you'll hear all about that in the interview. But I don't know. I loved Britt and I hope you love her as much as I do. And I hope you enjoy this interview. So thanks for listening. And thanks for listening to my little rant and my whole marriage counseling that I had last night with my husband. So enjoy the episode. Thanks for joining me on the Everything and Anything and a Bit Gay podcast. I have a guest today. Her name is Britt Michaelian, and we're going to get into her whole story. And welcome to the show, Britt.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here with you.
Okay, so I have so many questions for you. Start off by kind of telling me like what your background is, or telling my audience what your background is. I know your background.
Yeah. Well, so I'm an artist and
a good artist, I'll say. Like, you have really great art.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a little different. Well, it's changed over the years, so it's funny. So when I was a kid, I always wanted to do, make art, and I kind of went on a very roundabout way of actually finally ending up going to art school. So I got my bachelor's in fine art from the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, and I loved that because I went to college before that and it was all about the social stuff and it just wasn't me and I just got lost. And so then I kind of found myself when I found art school, and Chicago was great because I was away from my family, so I could kind of discover who I was. Yeah. And Chicago is a great city for that. So anyway, then I got master's degrees in marriage and family therapy and art therapy, got married, had kids, kept having kids, worked in the hospital setting doing art therapy with patients. So the hospital that I worked at when I was doing my practicum, when I was getting my master's degree, had an amazing program through the Institute for Health and Healing. And this was so long ago. So it was so amazing that I got to be part of this movement kind of, as it was starting. And so they had, and you could get certified working in the hospital setting as an expressive arts therapist. So I got to go in and work with the patients, and it was amazing and it was different, and people kind of weren't used to that type of thing yet. It was kind of a new thing. And they had a chaplain program and a massage bodywork program. And then they had guided visualization, which again was really new, but we were in San Francisco. So it was like, it made sense there. So I was really fortunate to be there. And at the same time that this was all going on, I had an amazing agent who was getting my artwork in galleries across the United States, in Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, all over. It was amazing. And I was so grateful to be able to, have my artwork be all over the place like that. Collectors around the world. It was wonderful. And I don't know where you want me to stop. That's kind of my background.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great, introduction to who you are. At what was the turning point where you knew that art and healing was kind of your true path?
Yeah, it's so interesting because it really didn't make sense until a few years ago. And, I'm in my 50s now. So it took a long time.
Good for you. I would not have thought you were in your 50s.
Thank you. Yeah. So it just took me a long time to figure out why I was doing what I was doing. I was really just following my heart. And there were times where I was not following my heart. I was not listening to my heart. I was just kind of, opportunities were coming to me that I should have said no to. My cats are going to be here, by the way. So this is
That's okay.
Bella.
I have cats as well, so I'm all
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Anyway, so I did for a while, I was doing like the mommy blogger thing. And then, I got pulled into some influencer work and stuff like that. So it just kind of, and then my mom got diagnosed with lung cancer. And so that was a major turning point for me in terms of, what am I doing with my life? And we actually moved from San Francisco, where my husband was born and raised, and we moved down, and our girls were too. We moved down to Southern California to be near my parents during my mom's cancer treatment. And then my mom passed. And it was kind of one of those moments where I was like, okay, I'm doing really exciting things. I was working with the entertainment industry, and I was doing red carpet stuff with Entertainment Tonight and other shows. And I was consulting for technology companies and doing all this. But I was like, I was not put on this earth to do this. So I just stopped. And I kind of just sat and was a mom. And I still was doing consulting work and life coaching because I always just love to help people.
Yeah.
And it just kept coming to me easily. And I knew that I didn't want to I'm not a licensed marriage and family therapist, because when I was getting my hours, I kept having kids, and it just didn't make sense for me to be paying $20-something an hour for a babysitter so that I could go work for free. As much as I wanted to be able to do that, this financially didn't make sense. And so I always knew there was going to be kind of a different path for me. I just didn't know which way it was going to go. And when my mom was diagnosed, I had gotten all my artwork back from galleries. I just, the gallery system was just not, it just wasn't going to, I stopped.
Yeah.
I stopped everything. And I just took a couple of years to kind of reassess what was going on. And then after my mom passed, my dad had cancer, and then my sister got diagnosed with cancer. And in this period of time, it just came to me. Some friends were doing Reiki, and they were going to, do you want to learn how to do Reiki? And I was like, yeah, I've always wanted to learn about that. And so I did Reiki level 1 and Reiki level 2. And then when my sister got diagnosed, I retook Reiki level 1 and Reiki level 2, and then became a Reiki master. And then I became a Reiki master in several different forms of Reiki. And it just changed everything. It changed kind of how I view life.
Tell me how it changed how you view life.
Yeah. So it just changed from being kind of in life and kind of letting life happen to me to being more aware of the lessons and the energy and kind of what I was contributing to the experiences that I was having. And it gave me more of a sense of responsibility. There's like 5 tenets of Reiki, and it's, just for today, I will not anger, just for today, I will, and it just kind of gets you to be grateful for the life that you have. And it allows you to feel more responsible for and more in control. And I don't want to say in control from like a, controlling, I don't know the words, coming, but you know what I mean? It's more just, you're more responsible for the interactions that you have. And so I kind of drive my kids crazy. They're all in there. Actually, today is my youngest daughter's 20th birthday. So I have no more teenagers.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. But I kind of drive them crazy because when anything's going on, my first response is always, well, I wonder what the lesson is in this. And they're like, Mom, can you just listen? And I'm like, yes, I'm listening. I'm sorry you're upset, or this is a challenge for you, but there's a lesson here, And so that's just kind of where my brain goes with everything, whether it's happening to me or happening to the collective. And so it's just shifted, everything has shifted.
So when you became a Reiki master, did your thought process of the world also change because how everything is, so my aunt's a Reiki master, and I don't know like why, we were at my mom's house, and I'm like, oh, my neck hurts or something, or my back or something. And she's like, let me do this. And she put her hands over me, and I could feel her hands getting very hot.
Yeah.
And at that point I believed in it. And then she did a whole session with me one time, and I remember getting up off the table, and I'm just like, oh my God, like I feel a little funky and dizzy. She's like, it's normal, just like get up slowly or whatever. But I felt better about this was a decade ago. So but the whole energy thing she introduced me to, and it's just so crazy how it really is part of what the world is, and the world, not a lot of people understand it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't remember who it was. I watch a lot of weird things on YouTube, but my husband's like, he likes traditional, television shows with lots of
Yeah.
action. And I'm like, I can't hang with that anymore. I
Yeah.
can't listen to guns, none of that. Like, I can't be around it. I don't care if it's fake, whatever. It's not my jam. But I'm always watching very spiritual consciousness, energy things. And there was somebody that was being interviewed. I wish that I could give them credit because it was a really interesting interview. It'll come to me at some point in time. But they were talking about how, I can't remember, it was Eckhart Tolle. I don't know. Anyway, it was how energy, we are all energy. And so when we're in the physical form, we're in this really dense energy. And so it's almost like an inhale. You're pulling all of your energy in so that you can be in this physical space. And then when you pass into spirit, it's like an exhale and your energy expands. And so it was a really interesting visual for me because I really do believe that we are all energy. And so then, when you get into like the quantum physics of it all and, how our thoughts really do manifest in reality, I think people are really starting to understand. I mean, it's been going on for a long time, obviously, but I think a lot more people, it's coming more mainstream consciousness that people are realizing power of their thoughts.
So I think that's so interesting you say that because, I mean, I've interviewed over 150 people at this point on my podcast, and a lot of them, not a lot, a good number of them have been around energy healing, past life regression, hypnosis, medium, psychics, and stuff. And it's made me really think differently about what happens like once we die. Like I never really believed in like the heaven and hell and all that anyway. But I now have a different outlook on what happens. That we are this energy, and we're kind of going back out, and it's a spirit in a way. Like I don't. I mean, I know what I believe, and I from the guests that I'm having, and this is why I wanted to have you on because I could tell whenever I saw you on Instagram, we had the same, like there was just something that resonated about you. And I'm like, I got to have her on because she's like, she's one of my people.
Yeah.
and so, yeah. So has that changed you also whenever you, like, when your sister and your mom passed and stuff, not that it's ever easy, but did it kind of help you knowing that what was going to happen to them afterwards in some ways?
It's so interesting. And it is so interesting. It just shifted everything for me. So I actually was with my mom at the moment that she passed, and I saw her spirit leave her body. It sounds so crazy, but
No, it doesn't at all.
And I saw her eyes before her spirit left her body. She very clearly looked up and saw something, and it was like, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And then I could hear her afterwards. I have goosebumps right now. I could hear her. She could speak to me, not like all the time, but I could kind of like tune into her frequency. And so, I mean, I was just talking to my husband about this yesterday because there are so many things that I just got to keep my mouth shut when I'm with certain people because they can't hang with this information.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I get it. I mean, it's like people are so close-minded, and especially in the whole religion of the country of where we are and stuff. You have to be careful what you say to the wrong person. I mean, I'm in Boston, in a very liberal state, Massachusetts, so I can kind of say what I want, and I say what I want on my podcast. But you can't. There's certain people you cannot. My mom has some friends that are very religious, and if I would talk about any of this stuff, they would think like I'm.
Listen, my aunt was a Catholic nun. Yeah. My family, I was raised Irish Catholic. Yeah. I have the utmost respect for people's and their choices with religion and their beliefs, as long as it's, and I don't want to offend people in terms of, I don't want to scare people because a lot of that comes from being scared. And, I think if I was going to choose a religion, it would probably be Buddhism.
Same. Same. We are so alike.
Yeah. It's just compassion and love. And so one of the things that I just, going back to what we were talking about is when my sister got diagnosed. So my mom, when she was in treatment, my sister and I were both like, you need to do some things that are alternative. but my mom, she went down to the Chopra Center my mom was not religious at all. My dad was Catholic. My mom was not religious. She would go to church and laugh at everything. Well, we had to go for like Easter or Christmas or whatever.
Yeah.
But, I think that when my sister got diagnosed, she did a lot of the things that my mom did, where she did do meditation and things like that, but she was scared to do some of the alternative stuff. And then as we got into, 4 years was her journey, she was more open to, I was going through the Dolores Cannon stuff with her. I was teaching her about quantum healing hypnosis, and I was getting certified in that at the same time because I wanted her to be able to go through all of these processes so that she could, if she was going to leave, which she did, her physical body, that she was able to learn the lessons that she needed to learn, right? And I don't think that we're ever done learning lessons, whether we're in the physical or in spirit. But
yeah,
it was so amazing in that period of time, sitting with her in the bed, and her physical body was giving out and she was in so much pain, and I would Reiki her back, and it was so beautiful. She brought my artwork back into my life because I had stopped painting, and she got me paint by numbers. And I had this whole download about putting the Reiki into the artwork, and that the artwork could serve as a healing transmission.
Yeah.
And I just knew that was possible. I didn't need anybody to tell me, confirming it with science. I just could see it and I could feel it. And then I would confirm it with other healers. Do you feel anything from this artwork versus this artwork? And they always could. And I have healers who collect my work now, and it's an honor, and it is validating, but I don't need the validation as much as other people do.
Yeah. That's awesome that you don't need that. This is what you're giving them, and they can take it or leave it, right?
We're all free to believe the things that we want to believe. If you believe in something, your thoughts create that reality. So it's all, I think it's so much more complicated than we believe, but at the same time, it's very simple. And I think, it's so important, when somebody is going through what my sister went through, what my mom went through, to let them do their journey the way that they need to do it. So of course I would show up with a juicer so my sister could juice, and I would show up with all the alternative treatments that I would read and study about. Sorry, my cat, for whatever reason, when I'm on podcast, this cat always wants to be on me.
I have to close my door so my cats don't come in, or else they'd be on me too. So I get it.
If I did that, they'd be scratching through the door.
Yeah, same. They usually are jumping on the door, almost knocking it down. I'm like, you're a cat. How are you doing this? So
yeah, exactly.
It's all good.
Anyway, when my sister was going through kind of that process in the end, it was like this very odd, magical experience where I would have these like flashes of light that I would see around her. And I knew that she was going to leave her body because they would be more and more towards the end. It was like the spirit world was merging with so she could feel it, so she could sense it. And it was interesting because after our mom passed, I would have dreams and I would, sense my mom and my sister never could. And so she was kind of jealous about that. And so then, as my sister was kind of leaving her physical body, so I would say she was kind of half out of her physical body for about the last 6 months because she was back in and out of the hospital. She wasn't ready to leave. Her children, her oldest son has very severe autism, and her, other children were young. She had one son that was in high school still, and she just didn't want to leave until she knew that everything was okay. And it's so strange how life happens the way that it does. So my sister, looking back, she made comments when we were young about how, at my funeral, she was like 19. She's like, at my funeral, play this song, that Sarah McLachlan song, Angel, that's on like all the, animal shelters, like instant tears. She was like, I want this song to be played at my funeral. I was like, why are you talking about your funeral? You're not even 20, And like her whole life, she would make comments like that. And then even 3 months before she got diagnosed, she said she wished that she would get cancer so that somebody would have to take care of her for a change. Because she had spent so much of her life taking care of her children and, making sure everybody, and she just wanted to be taken care of, and she got her wish.
Yeah.
So thoughts are very powerful.
They are.
Yeah.
Can you explain to my audience what quantum healing is and also what stone medicine is?
Yes. So when I started creating artwork that was more metaphysical, I guess you could say, I started studying other forms of healing. And I've always been very into crystals. And I knew that there was no way that this was something that was like new age, just came about in the 70s or 60s or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, what is the story about these crystals? Why are these so important? Why can I feel energy from them? And some are stronger than others. Like, what's up with that? And so I found this textbook that was transcribed from the lectures of an 88th generation Chinese stone medicine practitioner. You can get this book on Amazon. There's another one called Stone Medicine. It's not this one. This is literally a textbook. And it goes through basically all of the energy meridians and, all of Chinese medicine as it relates to stone medicine. Now, obviously, 88th generation means this has been around a long time.
Yeah.
And so it corresponds to where the minerals are found in the earth. And there's ley lines in the earth that directly correspond to our physical bodies. We have ley lines and energy meridians and chakras. The earth has chakras. This is like we are directly part of the earth. And these stones carry very powerful healing frequencies. And so this came about long before plant medicine or allopathic medicine, any of it. So that's why when we place these crystals on our body, that we can feel them and they can heal us. And so it's similar to Reiki. And then, quantum healing is all the same kind of, it's not the same, but, for beginner mindset, it is the same because you can't see it. You can feel it, but it's very subtle. So quantum healing is, kind of similar where there is an energetic exchange. And with quantum healing, I think the biggest part of it for people to understand it, it's where you visually in your mind's eye witness healing. And, we're all part of, when people say we are one. Did you ever see, I can't remember the name of this movie. It's with Dustin Hoffman and he's in this scene and there's like a blanket and he's got his hand with something and there's a blanket over it. And then you have this over here and there's a blanket and he's like, you're this person and this is this person. And you think you're separate, but there's this blanket over both of them. And that's the energetic field. That's the quantum or morphogenic or bio, all of these different names. It's the field between us. Yeah. And that was how Nikola Tesla and the Egyptians, they all kind of understood the energy between us. We're all connected.
Yeah.
And so that's why when we have empathy, we can feel somebody else's emotions. If you're open that way, you can sense somebody else's emotions. And so in quantum healing, and in particular in quantum healing hypnosis, you're allowing somebody to kind of let the layers of protection and sort of programming that they've received and the inhibitions to just sort of fall away so that they can access their true essence, which is their soul or their higher self or whatever name you want to call it. And so with quantum healing hypnosis, which was what Dolores Cannon taught, you allow somebody to really relax into this space. And so the difference between regular hypnosis and quantum healing hypnosis is that you get somebody to this very relaxed state where they're just before they fall asleep. And then you get information that comes through from their subconscious. So you have sometimes past life information comes through. Sometimes it's, a lot of people that I work with, they want to know why they got cancer or why their relationship didn't work out, or even business people who are CEOs of companies who are stuck with where do I proceed in this? And so I help them kind of get rid of the, filters and really access their higher self or their soul that will be like, okay, here's what the answers are. And so I was just doing that with people where they would, have their information come through. And then I took a course with Sarah Landon that's about channeling. And so I would have them send me their questions beforehand, then I would channel. I would read the questions and then I would channel. And then it wasn't like answer 1, answer 2. It just kind of came through and comes through in a, single download usually. Yeah. And then I will do the hypnosis with the client and then I'll read them after they do the hypnosis, the channeling. It always lines up. It always lines up. It's just what comes through for me is said a little bit differently. It's the same messages. And so then that allows people to really understand, wow, like I really have the answers. I just need to, and so I'm really just a facilitator for that. I'm a clear channel and that information just comes through for me. So comes through from the quantum field.
Yeah. I want to
Yeah.
go back to something that you said more at the beginning in the interview, where you said that you feel, and I feel this as well. People are starting to. This is resonating with people more, right? People are starting to understand it more. People, and I don't know, and sometimes I'm like, okay, I was on TikTok or I was on Instagram, and is it just because I'm interested in this in my algorithm? But I don't think it is, because I mean it is obviously, but I think just people are more open to this now. I think people are at a different level where religion isn't playing a part in their life the way it was, or in people's thoughts the way it was 40 or 50 years ago, when the whole country was, there was, if you didn't believe in God, 50 years ago, then, you were outed or whatever. So now I think people they can make up their own minds, or they're expanding somehow. And I mean, do you feel that too, that just like people are just more open to this type of stuff than ever before?
Yes, and I'm not sure why. I never really was super into astrology. Like I always, kind of knew my sun sign and my moon sign and my rising
Mm.
sign. And, I was born on the Day of the Dead. So I've always kind of had one foot in both worlds.
Yeah.
But I do think, I don't know if it's astrologically that we're just kind of, the age of Aquarius, whatever. I think that there's just some type of spiritual evolution going on right now where people are opening up to information about, and I think what it is it's giving us back our power.
Yeah.
It's allowing us to realize that there's divinity within each one of us, and just like that blanket that's over all of us, there's that God essence that's in all of us. We are all creators. We are all divine beings. And so it's whether or not you have access to that, or whether or not you allow yourself access to that. So, I was thinking before we were talking today, kind of with everything that's been going on lately, I think it's really important for people to take responsibility for their own healing, because I think when we take responsibility for our own healing, that goes out into the world. That energy goes out into the world, and it helps others to heal, and it helps them, inspires them. And so I think when more and more people are talking about things like consciousness and healing, and, kind of these newer, but actually really ancient ways of thinking, I think it allows people who have been thinking or curious about this, it sort of gives them permission to get more curious and to have these conversations. And so that's why I think, we're more accepting of things that are outside the box now.
Yeah.
There is no box anymore,
And I think that just the promotion of people putting so many videos out of Dolores Cannon's seminars and speeches and stuff that she did, I think that's really helped people kind of understand. Because I think there's a guy named, I think his name is Michael Armstrong, who is really, he studied with her, I believe, and he's really trying to keep what she was doing going and alive and continuing it. And he's really, I'm trying to get him on my show. It's just like, I think everybody wants him to have on their podcast, so it's not easy. But I think it's things like that, like all the things that she did has really opened up people's minds as well. So it's
what's interesting is I actually did not do the Dolores Cannon training for the quantum healing hypnosis. I did the training through Candace Craw Goldman, who worked with Dolores for 8 years or 10 years or something like that. And she developed her own system that's a little bit more creative. And the reason that I was kind of like, should I do Dolores's program or should I do this? And I actually chose to do this one because you can incorporate other healing modalities like Reiki into it. It's not as rigid. And I'm not a rigid person. I don't do well with that. So this just appealed more to me. And then I've known other people who have done Dolores's program. It's an online, the level 1 is just an online one. And I actually, this one woman that I just met, she was trained in it. She was working with clients, and she said that she had too many things that clients were coming up with that were too hard for her to deal with. So I think if anybody's curious about getting this type of training, you have to have therapy training. You have to have, I have 2 master's degrees. So I've worked in hospital settings, and I have experience helping people with these types of emotions, because a lot of trauma comes up in this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of repressed things that come up when you remove those filters. And so you have to know how to help people through that. And then the other thing is, I won't do single sessions with people anymore because a lot of stuff comes up. And then if you're not there the following week to help people process what came up, it's kind of a dangerous way to, you kind of are leaving people with these open wounds. And so I want to be there to kind of hold space for people as they're processing this information so that they can integrate it into their lives. And I think that's really important. I'm sure that, if people go through Dolores's other levels, that they get more of this training. But I think it's really important for people to know that if this is something that they're feeling called to do, that they also need to be trained in how to help people cope with the trauma that comes up, whether it's past life or this life.
How are you making sure that you're not holding on to what the trauma that they have, like it's not coming to you? Do you have some type of technique for that?
I am going to share something with you because I do something, and I just started doing this actually for the whole world this week because I don't know why it didn't occur to me sooner. So every morning when I wake up, and I actually do this throughout the day, I visualize clearing any energy that is not aligned with my highest good and sending it down to the core of the earth through my energetic roots. And it hits the core of the earth and is transmuted into love and beneficial blessings for all. And so then I literally feel it come back up to everybody. And then I call in divine light to fill in the gaps where any energy was released, because you never want to leave open gaps in your energy because other things can attach and fill through. And then I visualize, and I do this in yoga classes, and then I visualize a golden toric field around my energy, around my body, filtering out any frequencies below the frequency of love.
Okay.
And when I go into yoga class, I do it for myself. I do it for the entire room. I'm toric fields around every single person individually and the classroom as a whole. And this week I started doing it for the entire earth, sending any energy that is not aligned with all of our collective highest good down into the core of the earth to be transmuted into love and beneficial blessings, filling in the gaps with divine violet light. And then the golden toric field around each of us individually and around the planet as a whole, filtering out any energy that is below the frequency of love. I believe when we heal and when we are pursuing any type of healing practice, that is love, that comes from a place of love, that spreads love. So it's kind of like healing and love are the same thing. And I think we all have a responsibility. However, we are in a universe of duality and contrast. That's how we learn. We need to hurt in order to change, right? Like if everything was peachy, we would never change. And so we need to have lessons. We need to have things
That's a good point. I never thought of it that way.
We have to, and so it doesn't serve any of us to say that person's bad or to be in judgment. It doesn't serve us. We need that for whatever reason. So that's why it's important to always be asking ourselves, what's the lesson?
Yeah. That's very interesting. I never thought of it that way, but it makes total sense. I mean, this week especially has been a very strange week with the Charlie Kirk thing that happened, like everything that's happened, like it seems like the world is spinning out of control in some ways. So I feel like this type of good energy we need it more than ever, so.
Yeah. And the other thing is that's really important. So like I have 7 healing practices that I talk about all the time. It's kind of like my main message. I'm writing a book about it. So grounding is the first practice. And when you see all these people who are talking about the good, the bad, the whatever, when you see people who are worrying about what happened in the past or what happened in past generations, and you need to pay the, price for what this person did, and you're bad because you believe this and whatever, that's a sign of not being grounded. If you're grounded, you're in this present moment now. And so it's important for all of us to be recognizing when we're not grounded. Social media instantly ungrounds us because we're in another world in the digital space. So we need to be doing grounding practices often. And so people can't get out into the earth, put their bare feet on the earth, which is what I love to do. Every time I take my dog to the park, my shoes are off. I'm touching trees. I'm weird, but I think that helps me, connects you to the earth. It's important.
And I just want to say one thing. I mentioned Charlie Kirk, that the world's out of control. I'm not saying that I'm not a Charlie Kirk supporter by any means. So I just want to be clear about that. I
Oh
don't.
yeah.
Yeah. So I
You
didn't
don't
want people to
need
think
to
like,
be, no, you don't need to be a this or that supporter to witness that something happened that a lot of people are in a lot of pain about.
yeah.
Do you know what I
I don't
mean?
think I don't agree with what happened, but I'm not.
No.
He's opposite of who I am as a person. Just
Yeah.
to make my any listeners that are listening to this, I don't want people to think,
And
oh, this guy's a
honestly,
Charlie.
like that's the thing that is really interesting about everything that's going on. Because, from the lessons perspective, everybody's different. And that's what makes us all beautiful.
Yeah.
That's why we're here, is to learn. We're here in these individual bodies to learn very specific lessons, to experience challenges, to overcome challenges, and to learn, hopefully, how to love and how to heal. And sometimes that means, we need to experience tremendous amount of pain in order for there to be change.
Yeah.
And so, we need to, I think, in order to heal, we need to love the parts of ourselves that we don't like. And we also need to learn to love other people and their beliefs and their patterns that we don't like. And that's not easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the world is just so divided right now. And I just hope it comes together at some point. And I wanted to just kind of make a comment about what you said about when you go to the dog park, you take your shoes off. So my aunt went through COVID, and then during COVID, she also got cancer as well, and so she had to go through. She was stuck in the house from COVID, and then she had to go through radiation and chemo, and she went through that. And then there was just, she was stuck in the house for so long, and luckily she's great. She just hit her third year. She's doing great. But she's the Reiki master also. And so she would go outside sometimes, and she would just find a place of grass and just sit on it just to kind of feel the earth.
Yeah.
And she's like, and she told me when she got in, she must have read a book or something about grounding, because she's like, you need to start being more grounded too. Like, you need to go out. How often do you go outside with your shoes off and you're kind of connecting with the earth? And I'm like, never. Like, and so I try to do that. I don't do it every day, but I try to do it. And this sounds really crazy to some people, but I had a friend that said, whenever you go on a hike, like, hug a tree and just connect with the earth that way.
Yeah.
And I never thought I'd be like a tree hugger, but I did it, and I had my husband do it as well, and I'm like, I feel it. Like, do you? And he did too. So it's kind of amazing how we all are kind of just one thing in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So.
It is, and that there is energy in these trees that they have studied. It's as soon as your hands touch it, the energy in your body and the systems in your body regulate. And so if you are having anxiety, it's a really powerful thing. And the other thing is, for people who can't put their, if you're in a concrete jungle and there's just no way you can find some grass and you need to ground, you can listen to bird song. You can sit in the sun and feel the sun on your skin. That immediately brings you into the moment because you feel the warmth. And, that's why animals like to sit in the sun too, is because they're getting grounding energy. And so, and then visualization is also just another really powerful form of grounding, and just, and breathing, focusing on your breath. So I think, grounding is really important, especially with all the things going on in the world right now. And, if we want to heal, we have to start with grounding.
Yeah. And my aunt also was like, buy this thing you put in your bed as a grounding pad.
Yeah.
And so I have it. I bought it, grounded my bed. So it's under my sheets. And so, and I it actually, I not that I had any aches or pains, but I actually feel kind of better. I'm like, maybe I did have a little aches or pain.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you another thing about the crystals. I feel like this whole story is about my aunt. I feel like my aunt should have just came on the show with us. I was having all these weird dreams. And so my father at times will come back and communicate with me in some ways. And he's not speaking to me, but there's just things that happen. And that could be a whole nother episode I could do. But, and I was just having like these really kind of dark dreams for a while. And so she sent me a crystal. I don't remember the name of the crystal. And she says, sleep with it under your pillow.
Was it black?
No, it was like it's purplish, pinkish, white.
Amethyst?
Yes, that's what it is.
Okay. Yeah.
And she said, and then there is a black one that I have too, like I bought. So she
Black
said,
tourmaline or onyx. Yeah. So that's a protection.
and
Mhm.
so she sent me the one crystal and I put it under my bed and the dreams went away. The bad dreams went away. And I had a much restful, more sleep. But the crystal went missing.
Mm.
And so I'm like, I have no idea where it is. It's gone. It was there last night. I was looking under the bed. Did it fall behind the bed? Nope, couldn't find it. So I ordered my own crystals. So I ordered the blackish one and then another one that she sent me. I put them in a pillowcase, put them under my pillow. Dreams were good again. I was sleeping well, having more positive dreams, and just woke up feeling better. The weird thing is that those crystals ended up disappearing too for a
No
while.
way.
Yes. And I called my aunt and I said, "What's happening? Somebody's trying to get something or someone is trying to get my attention." And I lifted up my pillow and I was on the call with her and the crystals were back.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre to me.
See, so that's like the quantum field, it's just playing with you.
Yeah. Whenever I was just in New York this week for work and I didn't bring them with me. But I definitely do not. I have much stranger sleeping dreams are much more dark and stuff whenever I don't have those with me. So whenever I go travel now, I have to bring them with me. I've like realized in this last trip. So,
That's interesting. Yeah.
but they really, really do work.
Yeah. I mean, and we have them around our house too. Like I have selenite all over. So selenite purifies. And I use a lot of selenite on my artwork to keep the energy pure. And I also use a lot of amethyst for the spirit chakras. So a lot of my artwork has to do with balancing different chakras. So for instance, for what you're talking about with dreams, I have people they have hard time sleeping. And so I'll create paintings for them that bring in the energy of their third eye and their crown chakra. And so then I'll put amethyst on those.
That's interesting because I would love to learn more about that because I sleep horribly still. I mean, my dreams aren't bad anymore, but I just like have a horrible time sleeping.
Yeah.
So, like falling asleep and staying asleep. So
the black tourmaline and those types of black onyx and those types of crystals, those are grounding crystals. So they help you ground in the physical. And then they also, like shungite is another one. They absorb low vibration energy. And then the amethyst would correspond to your crown chakra. So that would help align you with divinity and the greater good and, that type of thing. So if you have those two crystals, you're actually balancing your entire system because you've got the support of your crown and then you've got the support of your root chakra. So it helps, with your entire system. And then as far as the grounding mat, like I also have something called a higher dose mat that has 26 pounds or something like that of black tourmaline and amethyst in the mat.
Oh, wow.
And then it has a grounding capacity as well. And then it has infrared. So it's really good for healing. And my husband and I are on that. It's on a massage table in the middle of our closet. We're like shimmying around at night. But anyway, because it's like takes up our whole closet. But we are on there every night. And, it's very healing. And it does help with the grounding mat in particular, does help regulate your circulatory system. So that's why it's really, really beneficial. And it's the same thing when you sit on the earth.
Yeah.
Back in the early 1900s, late 1800s, they actually used to have hospital bed kind of areas outside so that patients could be in the sun. And that was grounding for them and it really helped them heal. So it's interesting how things are so different now with the fluorescent lights and things like that actually they trigger your sympathetic nervous system, which is not what you want when you're trying to heal.
Yeah. I interviewed a guy named Doug Leifer who's discovered the Tesla lights. And he like basically healed himself by doing this. And he wants to share it with the world about what he's, discovered and stuff.
Is that where you have the 4 plasma lights around you in a bed?
Yeah. Well, you don't have to have 4. You could have 2, or you could have 1. I mean, they're not cheap at all. but he basically, his story is he was doing horrible with his health and then discovered this. And now he's just like a new healthy person after doing this. And he's basically dedicated, I think, his life to this at this point, trying to get people to understand this technology, or, understand what this is all about, and getting people to get healed from it and just living a better
See,
life.
I think a lot of people are like, this is another reason why the consciousness is expanding, is because so many people are discovering ways or rediscovering ways that they can heal themselves that are kind of outside the box. And I think that that's opening people's eyes to the possibilities of all of these things, that maybe what we've always thought was how things work, maybe it's not really that way. It's just kind of where we've been trained to believe that things are. And so when our horizons are expanding, then we can talk about these things and we can conceive of things whereas back, maybe even 10 years ago, people were very structured and rigid in terms of what they thought was possible for many different aspects of life.
Yeah. I mean, 10 years ago, I never would have thought any of this I would have been like, yeah, okay, crystal. Yeah. Okay. Like I did not have an open mind like this. And I feel like over the last even 5 years is whenever I've opened my mind more about it. So,
yeah. Well, whatever it is, whatever timeline anyone's on, it's great.
Yeah. I know I've kept you for a while. I have one more question I want to make sure that I get for you. I want to talk about the healing house and what that is all about, because I read that on your website and I think it's amazing. But can you tell my audience what that's about, and it's coming up again soon?
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited about doing this work. It is such an honor, and I feel like it just is so powerful. I might actually be doing one for the 1-year anniversary of the Palisades fires, and I hope that I can. So because I took my artwork out of galleries, and because my artwork started becoming so much more about healing, and it didn't fit in the art world. And there are, amazing artists that have done artwork kind of in this space, but this is just different. And I wanted to provide an experience for people where they could feel what it feels like to have Reiki healing, and to kind of meditate, and to have sound healing and frequency. Because I also tune all of my artwork. I use a tuning fork and I tune it all to 528 hertz, which is the frequency of love. And so I have Healing House. I just had one in August on a 28-acre regenerative farm down here in Southern California. And it was in this peace dome, and it was just magical. And so people come in, I do a sound bath, I do a guided meditation, and group Reiki healing. So this last one was more intimate. I could go around and do hands-on healing for most of the people. And then I introduce them to the artwork, and I explain the frequencies and, how the art is transmitting healing, and how, this is a new way of experiencing art. And then we do gratitude tea ceremony. And this last one, we actually went through all 7 of my healing practices. So grounding, inspiration, movement, nourishment, gratitude, forgiveness, and grace. And so we went through, everybody did a forgiveness practice. And that was really powerful for people. People didn't even realize that they had things that they needed to forgive. And we gave them a process where they, rubbed their hands together and could shake off what they needed to forgive. And it was very powerful for people. So in January, I have Healing House coming up, and it's going to be at a theater. So it's going to be a little bit different experience. People aren't going to be on yoga mats. They're going to be sitting in chairs.
Okay.
But this is going to be a fundraiser for City of Hope Cancer Treatment Centers. And so, sorry, I'm trying to get out of the sun because it's coming through the light or through the window. Anyway, so this has been such a powerful event for people, because they come in and, there's people who are sort of skeptical. And then there's also people who just need healing. A lot of people who need healing. And I've had people, last year I did it in Beverly Hills. I had this one trans woman come up to me and say she did not know that she needed as much healing. She just knew that she needed to come to this event. And it was like, by the end of the tallest goosebumps right now, she just felt like she had never experienced so much love.
Yeah.
And, and she was having a hard time processing something that had happened to her, that she needed to, grace is about surrender and acceptance. And so, we really talked about that afterwards, and she was able to leave and sort of understand that surrendering and acceptance is two-way street.
Yeah.
You need to surrender and accept, and they need to surrender and accept, and you can't control what anybody else does. And so it was really, it's just an amazing event for people. And it's an honor for me to hold space in this way. So sometimes I have people who come and speak, like, and the one in Beverly Hills, and then also the one that's going to be the next one in January, Kelly Gores, who did the Heal documentary, came and spoke about energy, and she's going to speak at this one as well. And then I have some other exciting things coming for this next one too. So it's going to be a lot bigger. But, my dream is to get these things into hospitals and to be doing these for patients in hospitals, have my artwork in hospitals so that it can transmit healing and so people can really understand the power of their own thoughts and the frequencies that they carry and how that affects their own healing.
Yeah. Britt, I don't know if you do this. I ask my guests this a lot, but do you ever kind of step back and think about how much love and healing and all the goodness that you've brought into the world? And do you ever reflect on that? Because you are amazing. And if you just think about the conversation we had in the last hour and of all the amazing things that you've done for so many people, like you're talking about the trans woman that you helped, that she didn't even know she needed this help, it sounded like, but she felt better, like there was so much trauma there. Do you ever stop and think about what a good person you are and how much you've helped people?
Oh, thank you. I don't really think about me as much as I think about how many more people I want to help.
That's the person. That's what I mean.
Yeah, I don't really think about me as much as I think about, I'm excited about being able to help open people's eyes and help them understand the power that they have inside. But yes, thank you. I am
you should
so
take back and just like, be grateful if you want, but I think you should just like give yourself, a hug sometimes, just because of how amazing. If we just think, if there were more people like you in this world, how much better off we would be. Where you're just trying to make people feel better, heal from trauma, love. I just think if people were like this in the world, it would be such a better place to be. And I'm so happy.
People are this way. Thank you. I think a lot of people are this way.
Yeah.
I just think they don't realize it. So maybe
I
need to be the better example of that.
But you're helping people realize, even if it's one person at a time, like you're doing it, and that's amazing. So I'm so thankful that you came on my show and I got to meet you, and you're amazing. If my listeners want to learn more about Britt, go to the description of this video or podcast. I will put all her information on there. Reach out to her. I'll put her Instagram, send her a DM, and thank you so much for being on. You're amazing.
Thank you so much. You are too.
Everybody, be sure to leave a comment and subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, and follow Britt on Instagram. Again, link will be in the description of this podcast. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and talk to you on the next podcast. Thanks, Britt.
Thank you.